So I was adopted from Korea. I was born in Seoul, South Korea in 1978. I grew up right here locally in Garden City. I'm really close with my parents, which is, I think, a phenomenal thing. I live right next door to them still. I grew up in the house next door to me, and my grandmother grew up in the house that I currently live in. So we're a very, very close-knit family, which is phenomenal. I have 3 sisters, 2 older sisters and 1 younger sister. We're all adopted. My 2 older sisters were born here in Brooklyn. My younger sister is from South Korea also, but we're not blood related. So growing up in a very primarily Caucasian neighborhood, people would think that my younger sister and I were twins. I loved music, I still do. I play piano and violin. I went to the public school for elementary school, primary school and elementary school, and then I went to Sacred Heart for high school. And that was actually, to be honest with you, a little bit of a tough transition. The first few months was really hard. I had left a lot of my friends, or all of my friends, at the middle school, and they went on to my local public high school. I didn't know anybody. And that was really, really hard. So it was a big transition for me the first few months. And I remember somewhere around Thanksgiving time, upset and telling my mom, I want to go back. I want to go back to the high school. I don't know anybody. I don't have any friends. And my mom just said, just please stick it out until the new year. And if you really still don't like it, then come January, I guess it was 1993, we'll put you back into the high school. And something by the grace of God and just maybe just me trying to put my best foot forward, it ended up probably being the best thing I ever did was trying a little bit harder and sticking it out and forming some really great friendships. But it was a growth experience. It's hard for, I think, a 13-year-old girl trying to find her identity and where she belongs. And so I really appreciate the 2 friendships that I had. So I was a diligent, conscientious student, and I admit that I was a bit of a geek. I loved school and I loved studying and learning. I actually always knew that I wanted to be a doctor. In kindergarten, we had to make these little figurines, paper dolls, and they were holding a balloon, and in the balloon we wrote, when I grow up I want to be. And in fact I made 3 of them. I made, when I grow up I want to be a house cleaner, and if you come to my house you take a look around. That definitely is not my profession. And the other one I wrote was, when I grow up I want to be a ballerina. And I did pursue that for a while. I did dance for a number of years. At Shaw, actually, I was a snowflake. I was in different numbers in the Nutcracker over the years. So I really liked that. But the one thing that I followed, obviously, was the paper doll that said, when I grow up, I want to be a pediatrician. And I always knew that. I loved kids. I still do. I love science, the body and how that worked, and medicine. And so lucky for me, I was able to find something that really fit. And I knew that as a little kid, which was, I think, pretty cool. After I graduated from Sacred Heart, I went to Binghamton University for 4 years, and I actually met my husband there. After graduating from Binghamton, and I got a BS in biology and environmental science, I flew over to the West Coast to California for a year to donate time and to volunteer with the AmeriCorps. That probably helped me to grow and mature into a young woman. And that was a phenomenal experience. So I worked in Alaska with the Special Olympics. We did a lot of environmental projects. And after AmeriCorps, then I buckled down and I went to Stony Brook University School of Medicine for 4 years. So finally fulfilling my little paper doll of I want to be a pediatrician. I did 4 years at Stony Brook and then residency at the Jacobi Medical Center in the Bronx. And then eventually ended up at Winthrop University Hospital, where I am today. Working at Winthrop Hospital, I work full-time in an outpatient office in Hempstead. My patient population is about 70% Hispanic, most of whom don't speak English very well at all, many of whom have come over from their Central American countries illegally. And getting to know my patients on a personal level has opened up so many doors for me as far as what I could do to help them, more than just from a medical perspective. I tell people this all the time, that the medicine part of it is really easy. I can fix asthma, I can give asthma pumps, we can get that abscess and give antibiotics, or the strep throat and give antibiotics. But really getting to know the person and the patients and their families, their story and where they're coming from, that actually has a really major impact on medical health and the quality of health that they have. El Salvador is, I think now, if it's not number one, it's number two as far as homicide rates and death from tragedy and homicide. It is a very unsafe place currently. So to protect their young children, they're fleeing and they're walking miles and miles to get to this country. So I said, well, I felt like it could only just help so much here in Hempstead and as a pediatrician. So I and several other doctors started making trips down to El Salvador to get to know the lifestyle and where they were coming from. That's where we started our not-for-profit, which is RIGME. The first trip that we took down in El Salvador was a complete eye-opening experience for me. I had never seen poverty like this. We got to know some of these families. We would go into their homes and we would talk to them and we would say, what's the one thing that you really, really, really want? Because clearly they didn't have showers, they didn't have toilets, they didn't have kitchens, they slept just on mattresses, they had very little. And 99% of them said water. And I really anticipated them saying something like better healthcare, more medicine, just because we were doctors wearing white coats. And even the doctor herself, when we went down and spoke with some of the doctors there, I figured they would say more supplies, we need more, a bigger hospital, a bigger examination room. But they also said water. And that's such a simple thing. It's just something that we take for granted here. I think being adopted from Korea and realizing what my life could have been had I not been adopted into a wonderful, affluent family that just gave me so much. Now realizing that there's families and people that are like that still. Not that I didn't realize that, but actually seeing that with my own eyes and witnessing that, it breaks your heart. You just want to go and give back as much as you can.